Tracy K Smith. A little bit of biographical information about Tracy K Smith. She was born on April 16, 1972, making her 48 years old today. She was born in Falmouth, Massachusetts, and raised in Fairfield, California. Her father also worked on the Hubble telescope for NASA for a decent amount of years. Also, her mother was a teacher. She's currently married to husband Raphael Allison, and she is a mother to 3 children. And she currently lives in Princeton, New Jersey. Moving forward to her education and career. So she actually studied at Harvard, and this is where she joined what is called the Dark Room Collective. Basically, it's a reading series for writers of color. The mission of the series was to give a base and structure to the community of emerging African American writers. Some famous writers who also joined this series are Major Jackson, Carl Phillips, and John Keene. She also obtained a bachelor's degree in arts at Harvard. Then she went on to study at the Columbia University, and she obtained a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing here. Then she went on and studied at Stanford University. This is where she got the Stegner Fellowship. So basically what it is a program for working artists to practice and perfect their craft. The fellowship does not give participants any kind of degree, and it is a 2-year fellowship that requires weekly 3-hour workshops with the faculty. She was a professor for the majority of her life at several locations. She was at the University of New York for a little bit, University of Pittsburgh, Columbia University, and Princeton University. Smith actually became the chair of Princeton's Lewis Center for the Arts for a little bit as well. And then she actually ended up becoming the United States Poet Laureate from 2017 to 2019. Basically what a poet laureate is, it's a poet appointed by the government, also known as the nation's poet, and she served the 22nd Poet Laureate of the United States. Oh, and on a little side note, I guess you can say this was a little bit part of her career. She hosted a podcast in 2018 called Slowdown. It consisted of 5-minute episodes exploring how poetry helps better understand aspects of life, such as history, art, and science. Moving forward to her inspirations. So, Emily Dickinson was definitely up there. Smith read a lot of Dickinson's work in her early school years. Dickinson's work was actually the spark of Smith's interest in poetry and writing, as well as other writers she respects, such as Mark Twain, Rita Dove, and Elizabeth Bishop. Another important factor in Smith's inspiration portrayed a lot on her father, Floyd Smith. Floyd was an engineer for NASA who worked on the Hubble Space Telescope, and when Floyd passed away, Smith explained that all of her memories of her father working on this telescope flooded her head. The nostalgia inspired her to basically fit him to an image of having somehow merged with the mysterious universe, shaping one of her most famous poems, "My God, It's Full of Stars." Sorry, didn't mean to do that. So, Smith's curious and optimistic personality led her to being so congested with the unknown. Therefore, almost all of Smith's work is based upon theories and ideas that she could not completely get her head wrapped around, and she used science fiction films to serve as possible answers to her questions. For example, Smith's poem, "My God, It's Full of Stars," she dedicates an entire stanza to the film series 2001, Space Odyssey. In doing so, Smith basically brings light and ideas to certain aspects of the film by pointing out little details that may be ignored For instance, like in the lines, in those last scenes, as he floats above Jupiter's vast canyons and seas, over the lava-strewn plains and mountains packed in ice, that whole time he doesn't blink. Thus proving Smith is evidently inspired to uncover the hidden truth about the mystery of space by skewing out these little hints that may provide answers to her questions. As well as as a well-respected writer, Tracy K Smith won several awards to recognize her capabilities. In 2005, Smith won the Whitting Awards, which is an award for nonfiction, fiction, poetry, and plays. The grand prize for this was $50,000. Then in 2006, Smith won the James Laughlin Award from the Academy of American Poets. This award is for a poet's second published book. Then Smith's collection, Life on Mars, won the Pulitzer Prize for poetry in 2012. The Pulitzer Prize is a huge deal for all writers. In a sense, the prize is more than just submitting your best work and hoping for the best. It's 5 to 7 judges accept only the best crafted work of art, ranging from fiction, nonfiction, history, poetry. Then Smith won yet another award in 2014, which was the National Book Award for Nonfiction. As well as these awards Smith won are major, the achievements kept growing over time. Other awards Smith won consisted of Ainsfield Wolf Book Award, Cave Canem Poetry Prize, and the T.S. Eliot Prize. Tracy K. Smith was noted as lyric brilliance and political impulses in Publishers Weekly. Okay, let's get a broader look at the analysis of My God is Full of Stars. So the title of the poem is actually a famous line of the film 2001: A Space Odyssey. She uses this title to intrigue the reader's feelings and thoughts about what lies beyond Earth. Not only does she reference the film in the title, but also throughout the poem. So for instance, in the line, "This message going out to all of space," references when Carl Sagan sent a message into space in the film. Then again, referencing the last scenes of Kubrick's 2000 near the end of the poem. So in the previous slide, I actually proposed how Smith's father was a major inspiration in her writing. And this poem is definitely like one of the obvious. In the poem, Smith's father makes an appearance as a young man who is working on the Hubble telescope. And when he passed away, Smith looked to the universe almost as a source of comfort. So like hoping that her father became one with the space, and that every time she looks up, her father is looking back down on her, giving her a sense of comfort. This can be concluded through the spiritual references Smith makes in the poem. Mentioning Charles Heston, an actor who played as Moses, he's a big Hollywood shot. He actually can symbolize God as a higher power, since he played as Moses, forcing the readers to feel intensity of the authority. This also associates the universe as a heaven-like place almost, somewhere where she believes her father's spirit lies. The poem also conceives space as a metaphor through considering the facts, problems, and proposals of life on Earth. A recent interview with Smith can help better understand the depth and meaning behind this claim. Smith describes space aspects as, "They look like paintings, and yet they confirm that we are part of something vast and eternal and unknowable." Basically, Smith is saying space is something larger than humanity perceives. We are so caught up in a materialistic world that we often ignore the truth of living in the unknown. The overall intent of the poem is to get the readers to start asking questions. The poem opens up plenty of opportunities for the reader to figure out what they believe in, science or faith. The effects of the poem are entirely based on personal opinion. It is also concluded that the poem is aimed to challenge readers and to look at life events in a different perspective. Tracy K Smith actually wrote a lot more other famous works. As all of these books are consisted of collections of poems, they all explore their own unique theme. Serving as her first poetry collection, Ordinary Light tells Tracy Smith's story, her upbringing, if you will. The collection gives readers a bit of background of race, faith, family bonds, and struggle. It is a remarkable tale of what it means to be African American in America. Then in 2017, Life on Mars came out. Life on Mars is critiqued as a soundtrack for the universe to accompany the discoveries, failures, and oddities of the human existence. Smith focuses solely on the theme of science fiction in this collection. In 2018, Wade in the Water is a book flooding with America's racial sins and watching history move in a graceful direction. This book actually got its title from historical figure Harriet Tubman. So, Tubman used the song Wade in the Water to send a message to slaves to hop in the water to avoid being seen by slave owners in order to make it to the North. Finally, in 2019, Smith's most recent book, Eternity, is a poetry collection about the span of her entire career, ranging from political strife to struggle, grief, and love. This book was written during her time of being U.S. Poet Laureate, therefore Smith got most of her inspiration from her experiences in that field. Tracy K. Smith's role in African American culture and literary canon can be summarized in one remarkable word: growth. All of Smith's book have a meaning, telling the tale of struggles she's faced throughout her Black life, from reaching and discovering who she is and what she believes, to being a successful African American writer and influencer. It is all truly beautiful. I strongly believe Tracy Smith can provide as a role model for the African American community to show the growth and development of what being a Black American meant 100 years ago to now. African American history has evolved, and Smith is a perfect example of the positive growth it has made across society. I also like this quote that I mentioned here because it's important that we know that authors are being recognized for their achievements, and Tracy K. Smith definitely deserves to be recognized. She says, "I feel like it's a gift for any writer to be recognized like this." Okay, and finally our discussion questions. Do you think Tracy K. Smith would have had an interest for the space and science fiction if her father did not work for the Hubble Space Telescope? So, personally, I do not think that she would have had an interest for science fiction. This because Life on Mars is her only collection that speaks of these topics. I believe that once her father passed, she was more intrigued to learn about what he was interested in, maybe like in hopes of feeling connected to him on a more spiritual level. Then my next question is, do you think Smith would be as famous as she was if it wasn't for inspiration from films and historic figures? Example, Harriet Tubman, like she referenced Wade in the Waters. So my answer to this is kind of a tough question to answer because Smith is a phenomenal writer in my opinion. Therefore, I strongly believe that she could write about any topic and make it sound pleasing. Yet, Smith did gain a lot of attention by referencing lots of movies and films throughout her writings. Although I believe her skills outweigh her research, so I do believe that she would be as equally famous without all of the quotations and references from movies and historical background and things of that nature. So, my third question is, do you think her popularity would have been as high if her father was not known for working on NASA, or for NASA, sorry? So my answer is I do believe that, Smith's father served as an important person, actually, sorry, to a lot of people, especially NASA. So, as Floyd was, very well known, I do believe that Tracy gained a lot of popularity through her father. So, no, I do not think that she would be as known without her father's background. And finally, although she does not directly say whether her beliefs are in faith or science, what do you think Tracy K Smith believes in based on solely off of her Life on Mars poetry collection? So it's hard to say what Tracy K Smith believes in, like based off of her Life on Mars poetry collection, but I personally see Smith as more of a person of faith. This because, like, faith gives people comfort, and Smith's tribute to her father was applied in this collection, so, Smith describes that she likes to think he has become one with the universe, like almost like a heaven. So therefore, I do believe Smith has some sort of spiritual faith, and not science. And finally, my works cited. So I hope this presentation educated you on the great craft of Tracy K. Smith. Thank you for listening.